So AH's paid shills, which are essentially AH themselves, have been having an absolute fit ever since Law and Crime reported that the Virginia judge seemed to have enough of AH and her lawyers. In fact, when she rendered her final verdict on the 24th, she seemed to want to get away and get away quickly. Now, they attacked Law and Crime for reporting this, as well as other outlets as well. Why? Because they want to rewrite what's happened over the last few years, saying somehow, in some way, all of this is JD's fault. This is a matter of public record, though. And you know what? The judge, they did wreck AH. They've done so repeatedly. We're going to look at some example of that today. And you know what? This is fun time. I mean, this is fun time indeed. So, hey there to all you fine folks on this fine day, by the way. I hope you are doing excellently. And I love the example here in front of you. Why? Because not only does it disprove the narrative that you have being spun in the public, but you can see what judges think of Elaine and they think of AH. And that, well, that's the kind of thing that ends up losing you cases. See, they want to point at the other side. They want to say JD, his team, they caused all of this. But if you look at statements like this here, this tells you something. It tells you that Elaine, that AH, they lost this case. They lost it to the jury. They lost it to the judge. They lost it because they lied for 6 years before ever setting foot there. And everyone knew it was true. Listen to this here, though. You can see how the judge feels about them. Quote, and we're talking about Elaine here, so that would be Miss Bredehoft. I am going to make a comment to you. And maybe I shouldn't. Right there, really a judge, they normally won't step out of that box. They won't make some direct comment to you, pointing the finger and saying, you know what, you're a hypocrite. But that's exactly what they're going to say. Maybe I shouldn't, but I am going to anyway. But you risk losing credibility with the court when you come before the court and you accuse the other side of not following the rules. By the way, how many times have you heard her argue that? You heard her arguing it in the court repeatedly. She argued it in the other courtrooms as well. She loved to argue that, and she loved to argue it to the media, saying, hey, they put some kind of dirty pool out there. Quote, yet you repeatedly have tried to add matters to the argument docket that were not on the document. That would be a violation of the rules. So right there, the judge themselves is saying, you keep accusing other people of doing the thing that you do. You're the one breaking the rules. It's not on those folks over there. Oh, and the judge is not done. Continuing, you also send vastly overbroad requests, apparently in the hope that they will negotiate something better than what you might have gotten had you sent a reasonable request in the first place. I mean, that is getting wrecked by a judge. I mean, there is no denying it. So that's part of the reason that we have this on the Friday docket, not simply because they're not giving you everything you ask for, or you're not negotiating in the fashion you wish for them to negotiate with. You see that right there? She's saying, the reason that you can't get what you want isn't because they're not willing to play ball, but it's because you're not playing the same game that they are. You're playing something absolutely unreasonable. So why would they want to work with you at all? So I hope that I'm clear on that, the judge says, and I'm sorry I have to say it. So again, those people that are denying that the judge was sick of AH, that they've been sick of that team, that they showed that when they put in their final verdict, yeah, it's right here. And you know what? There are other instances of this too. See, this has happened multiple times, and not just with the Virginia judge. This has happened with every single judge that has had to deal with AH. This, for example, took place in Virginia. You had the judge dress down AH's team for about 10 pages of transcript, then tell them, you know what, I'm going to make a decision, but first I'm going to let you have the final word. When they go and they make their final word, they talk about, hey, JD's team over here, they could ask for stuff from us, but they should use less intrusive means. And the judge, they didn't like this answer at all. Here's where it starts. There are less intrusive ways to obtain this information, and his counsel included in their opposition, they have requested such via written discovery in this matter. And the judge says, you know what? Let me stop you for a moment. So you're saying that in the Virginia court that AH has objected to providing any evidence similar to what's being requested here? Is that what you're telling me? And the person representing AH then says, yeah, Your Honor, that's exactly what we're saying. So the court continues. So what? I don't understand what your point there is about less intrusive means. Your client is objecting to the less intrusive means of giving the information themselves. In fact, there doesn't have to even be a document request. Oftentimes, I have cases where counsel just say, here, let me give you the documents, as opposed to bothering, say, the CHLA. They're talking about charitable donations. AH will give you her communications with the Children's Hospital about the donations itself, a copy of the checks, any emails about it she had with the Children's Hospital. Here you go. Let's not bother the Children's Hospital. We're just going to give it to you instead. I don't see anything in the papers where AH has agreed to do that, either by ways of formal discovery or non-formal discovery. So what does the less intrusive mean? You're saying that they have to go back to Virginia, they have to go a different route. Basically, they have to force you to tell them something that everyone else would turn over. That's what you're telling me? And the lawyer said, yeah, that's what I think. And the court says, well, you know what? I don't agree with that. I'm getting sick of everything you're doing. And here's the thing, too. These are just two examples of something that happened again and again. You can find transcript after transcript of the judge is getting sick and tired of AH's team. Why? Because they made every single thing difficult. Why did they do that, you might ask? Well, that was because they were desperate. They knew that they didn't have a case. They knew they didn't want to turn over to charitable donations. They didn't want to turn over records of anything. And when the judges, they had finally had enough, you can see them, and again, transcript after transcript, cutting off AH's team, telling them, you know what? You got this stuff wrong. You're doing this the wrong way. Stop pointing at their team because you're the ones to blame. So when these people, they say that the judge in Virginia, they weren't tired of her, yeah, they're totally wrong. They're trying to rewrite this stuff. You do not let them have it. Why? Because that judge, they wrecked them again and again, and that only has Elaine and AH to blame. But anyway, let me know what you think about this stuff. And as always, I appreciate the heck out of you. You make this stuff work. Thank you. You want to help out the channel? Links are in the description. But you being here, that is the biggest help of all. So thank you. I appreciate you. And I'm going to end right here with another thank you and see you again very soon.